you're still in the morning, right? I just would like to thank the Lord for this blessed opportunity to be here with you all, to join with the local assembly here to worship the Lord, and also the privilege to share God's word. There's a prayer group in one of the college campuses in Bangalore, and I used to do a series of Bible studies for them. I started with David, and it went on for almost 15 weeks. So at times, my son would ask me, what are you going to teach them today? I would say, David. Next week, he will ask me, what are you going to teach them? David. I remember once he said, no, are you stuck with David? Right? So I had to tell him, there's so much written about him. That means there is so much to learn from David's character. Now I'm sure this is a very familiar character in the Bible, right? Many of us who have been Sunday schooled, I'm sure as soon as you hear the word David, there are many memories. There are many stories associated with this character that comes to your mind. So this morning I want to ask you, when I say David or David's character, what are the things that comes to your mind? It could be anything. We are just a few here, so I don't have to be doing a monologue sermon here. So can I get some response from you? Yeah?
Courageous.
Courageous. Okay, you're thinking about his battle with Goliath? Okay. What else? That's all you know about David? Pardon? Man after God's own heart. Yes, that's a statement said about him. What else?
Coward.
A coward? Wow, then interesting. So what are you thinking about? Which episode, which aspect of David's life?
Hiding in the cave.
Hiding in the cave, okay. Coward. Interesting. Then?
He loved God a lot.
That's good, Micah. He loved the Lord a lot. Maybe many of the Psalms, okay, that tells us his passion or love for the Lord. Good.
King.
Pardon?
King.
King.
King, okay, yes, David was the king. Yes. See, so Sunday school kids, they know quite a lot, right? What else?
Imperfect.
Imperfect. Okay, what are you thinking about? His sin with Bathsheba? Right. I remember once I went out to the pulpit and I asked a group of people, what is David known for? One guy stood up and said, his sin with Bathsheba. I thought, is that the only thing you remember? Okay, what else?
He's strong.
Friendship.
Pardon?
Friendship with Jonathan.
His strong friendship with Jonathan.
My will to surrender or confess.
Okay. Yeah, he did commit sin, but also he was willing to what? Ask forgiveness from the Lord.
Musician.
Musician, good.
Shepherd.
Shepherd, yes.
Joseph has something as well.
Yes, brother.
He's strong in battle. Like
Come again.
he's strong. Like he's in fighting.
Okay, strong person.
Yeah.
Good. Yes.
Leader.
Leader.
Shepherd.
Yes, we already got that. Shepherd. Where എന്തെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ?
Dancer.
Pardon?
Dancer.
Dancer. Just that one episode. Okay. Now, today I want to talk about one aspect of David's life which is often not spoken about. Okay? You might be wondering, what is that we don't know about David? Now, when you read through all that is written about David, there are two things, both go side by side, both these aspects. One is, he was a man with great endurance ability. He endured a lot in his life. Sometimes, when you read through David's life, okay, it's all stories connected together. But then chronologically, when you begin to put them all together, it's actually very, very insightful. Almost 20 years he endured Saul. 20 years of his life. Even after he became the king, he continued to face opposition, struggles, sometimes from his own family, sometimes from outside, sometimes from his own friends. So here is a man who had a lot of endurance. The second thing that you also realize when you go through David's life, what is this? He was also a man with a very soft, tender heart. He could forgive people left, right, and middle. He was perhaps the most hurt character you would see in the scripture, especially in the Old Testament. But you'll also see he being the one who forgave most of his enemies. So I want to talk about the way David endured and the way David forgave other people. Now I do believe that the Spirit of God is able to teach us some life lessons from these aspects as we look at David's character. Now please open your Bibles to 2 Samuel chapter 16. 2 Samuel chapter 16, and we will be looking at from verse 5 to verse 14. 2 Samuel chapter 16, verses 5 to verse 14. Now, even before this, as we read through David's character in 1 Samuel and also in 2 Samuel, you already have an idea about his enduring ability and also forgiving ability. Now, as I said, although David was chased and troubled by Saul in the house of Saul for almost 2 decades, we see him, he was able to go through all that, face it, battle it out. And then after the death of Saul, he goes around asking people, is there anyone in Saul's household to whom I can be of what? Help, some help. Now, how do you do this to a person who has been hunting you for almost 2 decades? Now, instead of rejoicing in Saul's death, perhaps completely destroying all those who belong to Saul's household, he is going around asking people, I want to do something good if anyone is surviving in Saul's household. Now, this passage that I have just mentioned to you, 2 Samuel chapter 16, is a kind of a case study to understand both David's enduring ability and also his forgiveness. Okay, like a case study. So let's first read 2 Samuel chapter 16, verse 5. When King David came to Bahurim, there came out a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gera. And as he came, he cursed continually. He threw stones at David and at all the servants of King David, and all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. Just to give you a small background to what we read here, David was already a broken person. A lot of things have happened in his life. He was already somebody who was losing his popularity. He was the king, but he was already losing the popularity. Absalom was able to win the hearts of people. And then, because of his sin with Bathsheba, he was also now facing the consequences, the judgments given by God. There was no lot of uproar within his own family. As a father, it was a very difficult time to see his own sons fighting with each other. And then, now to top it all, when we come to 2 Samuel chapter 15, we read about Absalom conspiring along with many. Now he was trying to dethrone David. So now imagine in your mind, he's already a broken man. A lot of things have affected him. Many hurts. And now he's not even able to stay in Jerusalem. Now what we read here, when King David came to Bahurim, he was actually leaving the palace and he was trying to go into hiding. So this incident we have in 2 Samuel chapter 16 happens when David was going towards the wilderness to escape from Absalom, and then so fearful for his life. If you want to know David's mental status during that time, just read Psalm 55. Psalm 55 was written during this time when he was going away from the city of Jerusalem. Now imagine, here is already a person now who has faced so much in his life, a broken person. Now here comes another character, Shimei. All that we know about Shimei is he belongs to the house of Saul, meaning a relative of Saul, somebody who was close to Saul and his family. That's all we know. Whether there was some kind of interaction between Shimei and David before this, we don't know. Did Shimei have a grudge on David? Was there a clash between these two personalities? We don't know. Now all of a sudden, as David was leaving the palace, here comes this Shimei, and then he begins to throw stones. And then later we also read, he also started taking dirt, dust, started throwing at David. But then I'm sure the thing that most hurt David, it's not the stones that were aimed at him. And I believe it was not the dust that was thrown at him. What would have hurt David so much was what Shimei said about him. Brothers and sisters, I'm sure by this time, irrespective of your age, we all know words have the power to hurt us more than anything. Now, if somebody throws a stone at us, yes, it might pain you for a few minutes or a day or so, but then the physical pain is gone. But when somebody says something that is so hurtful, the consequences of that is devastating. Have you heard of people who commit suicide because they've heard something said by their spouses, or sometimes even class teachers? It happens even in India. And it hurt them so much that they thought of ending their lives. Words have power to devastate a person's life. Now here is Shimei coming before David and his men. And what is he saying about David? Let's read verse 13. Okay, now let's read, or perhaps we'll start reading even before that. Now verse 7. And Shimei said as he cursed. Did you notice that word? Cursing. Shimei said as he cursed, get out, You man of blood, you worthless man. That's a very refined English, okay? But if you read through a few other versions, you know what he said? You bloody scoundrel. Do you use that word anymore? You bloody scoundrel. Kind of a third rate wordings. You're saying like, you get out. മലയാളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞ എവിടെയെങ്കിലും പോയി തൊല. In fact, that's exactly what he said. Get out of my sight. I don't even want to what? See you. You are a bloody scoundrel. Brothers and sisters, think about this kind of an insult. David is still the king. Don't forget that. David is still the king. There are some trustworthy, loyal people who are traveling with David. They are not ordinary people, mighty men. Have you seen presidents, walk with their convoy and all that? Sometimes, you have the bodyguards, walking. Perhaps it's a similar kind of a situation we read here. So in front of all those loyal people, here was Shimei accusing David. Okay? And what are the things that he said about him? Look at verse 7 and 8. Verse 8. The Lord has avenged you all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose place you have reigned. The Lord has given the kingdom into the hand of your son Absalom. See, your evil is on you, for you are a man of blood. Brothers and sisters, if you just break it down, you realize all that Shimei said about David are blatant lies. There is no truth in what Shimei said about David. False allegations. What are the things that he said? First thing is, he said, like, you killed Saul and his household. Is that true? No. Secondly, you also see, he's saying, no, you stole the throne that belongs to whom? Saul. Did David do that?
No.
He was willing to wait for how many years? 20 years until the Lord removed Saul from the throne. But what is the allegation here? You stole it. And look at the third thing. Did God give David's throne now to his son Absalom? No. It was Absalom who was trying to what? Dethrone David. God had not made Absalom what? King designate. No. It is all blatant lies, false allegations. And then it comes with fury and anger. Right? How do you handle such a situation? How do you handle such a situation? I don't know whether you have been ever falsely charged or false accusations against you, and then you have scandals, right? How do you handle that? Does it hurt you? Does it really hurt you? Imagine the place where you work. There are false allegations against you, things that you didn't even dream of, things that you didn't even intended or did. Now, how do you handle that? Now, here is David in the midst of all these false allegations. And we're going to see how David responded. Now, did you also notice? Shimei also brought in God's name in order to curse who? David. He could have just done it as if it's from him. Now he is taking the Lord's name in vain. What is he saying? The Lord shall repay you. അത് ഭയങ്കര പേടിയുള്ള കാര്യമാണ്. Have you seen that happen? ചിലപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ദേഷ്യം വരുമ്പോൾ when we get angry or furious at somebody, sometimes we also bring God into the picture. ദൈവം നിന്നോട് എന്ത് ചെയ്യും? നിനക്ക് ദൈവം കാണിച്ചു തരും. No, see, this also like is a kind of a strategy or a tactic to make you feel what? More guilty. And let me also point out, if this was said in a one-to-one context, it's totally a different scenario. No, if Shimei had met David in his home and then accused him of all this, okay, it's a different thing. But now Shimei is doing all this in front of a large number of people who are following whom? David. Who are these people? Loyal people. It's like Shimei wants to stand before all those people and say, Ray, you want to follow this man? You know who this guy is? Right? You want to give your lives for this guy? In fact, no, if you read the previous chapter, you find there were actually close to 600 people with just one guy's leadership. The guy called Gittites. They were following whom? David. So imagine, they are willing to give their lives for the sake of whom? David. And now Shimei stands before them and says, you don't know whom? David. I will tell you who David is. He's a bloodthirsty scoundrel. You guys are following this man? He's not a good guy. So what Shimei is doing is not only just to hurt David, but also to hurt his reputation. We all have reputations, right? Right? You know why we are all getting hurt when somebody says something against us? Or when they falsely implicate you? You know why it hurts you so much? We are all worried about what will happen to our reputation. Because in order to gain a reputation, it takes what? Many, many years. For a reputation to be, slashed out, you don't need what? Many days. One scandal. Now, one false allegation is enough to what? Bring down all that you have built for many, many years. That's exactly was the intention of whom? Shimei. Have you ever been through such an experience in your own life where you have not done anything of what is said about you? You feel like you're falsely implicated, falsely represented. And how do you respond to such a kind of a scenario? How will you face it? That is the question I would like to place before you. Now, brothers and sisters, yes, David would have been heartbroken because in spite of all the good that he did for the family of Saul, in spite of all the good that he had done to Absalom, in spite of being so patient, trusting in the Lord, here comes Shimei saying things that hurt him so much. Now look at how people who are with David responded to that. Before we look at how David responded, let's look at how those who are with David responded. Verse 9. Then Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, said to the king, why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over and take off his head. There were two guys who were like the senior bodyguards. One is Abishai, another guy is Joab. Both are brothers. They were also now journeying with whom? David. When they heard what Shimei said, Abishai said, hey, and how does he treat Shimei? He's like what? A dead dog. Meaning, he is nothing before us. That's true. Shimei is nothing before us. ചിലപ്പോഴൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ പറയാറുണ്ടല്ലോ, നീ എനിക്ക് മണ്ണാടാ, Sometimes, you are nothing before me. That's exactly what Abishai said. See, he's like a dead dog. You just give me a nod, I will take off what? He said, he would do that. He exactly means what he said. He would do that. And I believe this is our natural response. What we see here in Abishai is what? Our natural response. When you are hurt, you want to take it back. You want to take it out. And you want to retaliate. Now think about it. Now David, in fact, sometimes you may not do it. Let me say that. Sometimes you may not immediately retaliate. Why? You are afraid of consequences. Maybe those guys are powerful. But here think about David. They are the powerful ones. At that point of time, David and his mighty men are the powerful ones. And who is Shimei? A dead dog. Now, when you have the power with you, when you have the influence on your side, would you be able to keep quiet? Would you be able to endure? Would you be able to, not retaliate? Brothers and sisters, I tell you, it is part of our fallen nature. It is part of our fallen nature that the moment you are hurt by somebody else's words, you want to retaliate. Tit for tat. You have said this to me and I will give it back to you. Think about it. Brothers and sisters, if you look at the scripture, there were many people whom we see falsely represented, falsely accused. People who went through so much of hurt, sometimes from their own family members. You think of Moses, Numbers chapter 12. There was a time when Miriam and Aaron, they too joined with the crowd in falsely what? Accusing Moses. But we see an amazing response from him. Think about Jesus Christ our Lord. No? What do we see? Towards the end of his life. Now today morning we were, like week after week, we come and we remember what he went through for our sake. But do we also take that model? It's one thing to say, Jesus did all this for me. He didn't open his mouth. He was silent. It's one thing to say and adore him. It's totally another thing to what? Follow his footsteps. He was falsely implicated, misrepresented, tortured. Yet the Bible says he did not open his mouth. When you have power on your side, how do you keep quiet here? How much time or energy or thing would have been needed for Jesus to bring down what? Sulfur from where? From heaven. You remember there was an incident when John and James, they both were going and something unpleasant happened. So they asked Jesus, can we actually bring down what? Fire from above to destroy whom? These people. That's our human nature, fallen nature. Sometimes, we may not immediately give it back to them, but we will hold the grudge where? Inside us. നാട്ടിൽ പറയുന്ന പോലെ തക്ക തരുണത്തിന് വേണ്ടി കാത്തിരിക്കുക. പക്ഷെ കാണുമ്പോഴൊക്കെ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും? ചിരിക്കുകയൊക്കെ ചെയ്യും. ബ്രദറെ സുഖമാണോ എന്നൊക്കെ ചോദിക്കും. ഹൗ ആർ യു ബ്രദർ എന്നൊക്കെ ചോദിക്കും. പക്ഷെ ഉള്ളിന്റെ ഉള്ളില് inside what is happening? The hurt is still there. You're just waiting for a time to get back at them. Now here is David. Look at how he responds to Abishai first. Okay, Abishai is the one who is with him and a few others. And here is Abishai trying to tell David, just give us a nod, we will take him off, we will take care of him. Verse 10. But the king said, what have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? If he is cursing because the Lord has said to him, curse David, who then shall say, why have you done so? Verse 11. And David said to Abishai and to all his servants, behold, my own son seeks my life. How much more now may this Benjamite leave him alone and let him curse, for the Lord has told him to. Now, how do we really make sense of what David is saying here? How could somebody do this? When there's so much thrown at you. There's so much said about you in front of those people whom you love. Okay, how do you respond like this? How could David control his emotions, his fallen nature? Brothers and sisters, I just want to point out a few things here. Number one, we read David told his companions, Abishai and others, just leave him. If he wants to curse me, let him curse me. You know what? The result of that is, as long as David was in the vicinity, that fellow kept on coming beside whom? David, and kept on what? Throwing stones, and we read he flung dust on him, cursing him. Now, how do you do that? Would that be our response? If somebody says something against us, some scandal mongering people, they do something against us. Now, how do we say, let them spread scandals about me? Let them write something on WhatsApp. I don't mind. Is it possible? How about we respond? Let me get some responses from you. How do you feel like responding? Hello? That means nothing has come against you. No? How do you respond?
Agree with Abishai.
Agree with Abishai? Okay. What else? Sometimes, your heart is actually boiling within, I want to prove my innocence. Basically, it's all about that. I want to prove what? My innocence. Okay? I see my reputation is being tarnished, and I want to somehow stop this. Now, here is a man who says, if he wants to curse me, let him curse. Okay, I want to draw 3 lessons for us. Number 1, you know what David did here? He brought out his thick skin. You know what is thick skin? Hello? Tolkati. Huh? Let me explain this for you. For David, this is not something new in his life. For almost 20 years, he has faced what? Similar kind of accusations, allegations, and he has learned the lesson. I cannot live in the world without Tolikati. Are you following what I'm trying to say? Some of us are like touch me not plant. You know what is a touch me not plant? Huh? A Tottavadi. What is it? Can't know. Do you have that in Canada? Who knows, right? Now, you know what is a touch me not plant? The moment you go closer to that plant, it immediately shrinks all its leaves, and then it's like it takes this posture. It's like it cries out to you, please don't touch me. That's why it's called as what? Touch me not. Even though you don't even have to touch that plant, even though if you just go near it and then blow air, immediately it reacts. Some of us are like that. Maybe because of brought up, or because the way we are. Now sometimes We are oversensitive. Is there anyone here oversensitive? ആരെങ്കിലും എവിടെയെങ്കിലും ഒന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ മതി, ഔട്ട്, ഫ്ലാറ്റ് ഔട്ട്. Hello? Is there anyone like that? Overtly sensitive. So the thing is, no, the problem here is we take everything to our heart. No, one statement, one word from our superiors or from our colleagues or from our own family members, we take it to our heart and then we lose what? Sleep over it. Now David perhaps had learned the lesson, if I am like this, I cannot live where? On this earth. Are you getting the point? Huh? I cannot live here if I am oversensitive. I need to learn. I need to learn. Brothers and sisters, it is Charles Swindoll who said David had soft heart but thick skin. There's nothing wrong in having what? A soft heart. But we all need to have sometimes what? Hello? Thick skin. Or else, we will be spending a lot of time, sometimes, like I've wondered, somebody said something, and after that fellow is having a gala of his life, enjoying, and here we are thinking about what? One passing remark, and our days are what? Spent on brooding over it. Have you come across situations like that? Right? പറഞ്ഞവർക്ക് ഒരു പ്രശ്നവുമില്ല. പറഞ്ഞവർ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട് പോയി, അവരുടെ കാര്യം നോക്കി അവർ പോയി. പക്ഷെ ആ വാക്ക്, because you're oversensitive, you're taken that so personally into your heart and you're feeling miserable. Brothers and sisters, we all have to learn this. Now I'll tell my own story. When I got involved, by the way, what time do I have to stop this?
When you finish.
Oh. Very gracious of you, brother. Now the thing is, when I started ministry as a young man, like I was just finishing my college, and the Lord led me into ministry, and we were working with a campus ministry, and it so happened one day, a very elderly person, a senior kind of a mentor, for some reason he was very, very irritable on that day. Okay, he was frustrated with something, and he took all that on us, me and my wife. To the point, like after we reached home, both of us were looking at each other and crying. She was looking at me and crying, and I was looking at her crying. Not able to digest, not able to take in what he said. And the other thing that I felt was like, let me quit it now. ഇങ്ങനത്തെവരുടെ മുമ്പിലൊക്കെ ഇരുന്ന് എന്തിനാണ് ഈ സുവിശേഷ വേല ചെയ്യുന്നത്? വലിച്ച്, നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ പറയില്ലേ, വലിച്ച് എറിഞ്ഞിട്ടങ്ങ് പോയാൽ മതി. Literally we felt like that. In fact, my mind was thinking about writing a letter and quitting immediately, because it hurt us so much. And we were crying. Often we thought about what he said. We were crying. You know what? Knowing what happened, another senior brother visited us the very next day, and we were pouring out our hearts to that brother. And one of the things that he said is, Mone, ഇങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ സുവിശേഷ വേലയിലല്ല, ഈ ലോകത്തിൽ തന്നെ നിനക്ക് ജീവിക്കാൻ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ്. You understand what I said? If you are going to be so sensitive, you're going to have a very miserable life on this earth, not just in ministry, in any place. David had learned to actually bring out his thick skin to face similar situations. Let him curse. If he wants to curse me, let him curse. Secondly, although it was more of a sudden attack, David was not totally surprised or shocked by it. Did you notice what he said? If my son does so much against me, here is a stranger, I should be expecting what? This and perhaps much more. That's a good logic, right? You agree? എൻ്റെ മോനെ എനിക്ക് ഇത്രയും ദ്രോഹം ചെയ്യുവാണെങ്കിൽ, here is a stranger, a Benjamite, somebody from Saul's family. I am not surprised that he is treating me like this. You know what it tells us? A prepared mind. A prepared mind. The thing is, you know what? Whether we like it or by default, all of us want to be treated what? Very nicely. We want red carpet welcome wherever we go. And then we want everybody to hug us. We want everybody to what? Smile at us. We want everybody to shake hands with us. Is that going to happen every time? Everywhere? Hello?
No.
It's not possible. Sometimes, me and my wife, we talk. ഇന്ന് ആ അച്ഛൻ നമ്മളെ നോക്കി ചിരിച്ചില്ലല്ലോ. ചിരിച്ചില്ല. Why make a big fuss about what? That means your mind is always expecting to be what? Treated well. Here is David saying, if my son could do that. Actually, David is acknowledging the fallen nature of what? People. Hey, my own son, if he could do this to me, how would a stranger? Brothers and sisters, the world is what? A tough place. You agree? Yes? Yes. It's a tough place. And people who are living around us are not what? Perfect people. They have what? Fallen nature. So they will hurt us. The more you have this prepared mind, you're better what? Able to face such situations. Thirdly, let me also point out, David brings God into the picture here. Shimei also brought God into the picture, but on a different level. David also brings God into the picture. What is David saying? Look at 2 Samuel chapter 16. What is he saying? Let me read this. If he is cursing because the Lord has said to him, curse David, who then shall say, why have you done so? Okay, look at verse 12 again. It may be that the Lord will look on the wrong done to me, and that the Lord will repay me with good for his cursings today. Now, I want to ask you, Shimei was sleeping peacefully at his home, and God woke him up and said, please go there. David is going along with his friends, start cursing him. Do you think God would have done that?
No.
Hello? What is David trying to say here? David is saying, no. What if the Lord has said, curse David? Who am I to what? Stop that. What is the meaning of that? It simply means, if God has permitted this to happen, let me what? Face it. He is actually trusting in God's sovereignty. Do you believe that? Do you believe that? In fact, no, Shimei, when he thought about cursing David or doing harm to David, when he started from his home, could God have prevented that? Yes or no? Yes. Stone edukumba. Can God, could he have paralyzed Shimei? Yes. So if all that didn't happen, and this is what I'm facing now, it means God has permitted this to happen. So let me face it. Is that a good attitude or not?
Yes.
Think about it. If the Lord has permitted this to happen, I have no control over it. We don't have control over a lot of things that happen in our lives. If the Lord has allowed this to happen, let me face it. That's the first thing you remember. And secondly, David is also saying, the Lord is seeing everything. The Lord is seeing everything that is happening to me, God will repay with good. Brothers and sisters, we always have to believe this. When things don't happen the way we really expect, when others are treating us badly, when we are mistreated, and all that, remember, there is a God who is seeing all that is happening to our lives. And God knows how to compensate, if I can use that word. Okay? God knows how to compensate. For all the bad done to us, God knows how to compensate. You know why? The nature of God is, as we read in Romans chapter 8 verse 28, what do we read there? For those who are called according to his purpose, God is able to work out everything for the good of his people. Do you believe that?
Yes.
Do you believe that? Now bring that into this application here. Even if somebody is mistreating you, or they are falsely implicating you, mistreating you, misrepresenting you, believe, since God is involved in it, he knows how to what? Turn them around for your own good and for his own glory. See, I tell you, this is our anchor. Now, we don't have control of a lot of things that happens around us. But this is our anchor. Whatever that happens to me, I have a God who will be able to turn around everything. We know Joseph's story, right? How many times he was mistreated? Falsely accused. He was put in prison. People forgot him. His own brothers what? Treated him very badly. But how does Joseph sees all this? You intended all this for my destruction, but the Lord turned it around for what? My good and for his glory. If you don't believe that, life is going to be miserable. And you will keep wondering, no, Lord, why? Why have you allowed this to happen? No, why am I treated so badly? No, you may begin to argue with God, or have grudge with God, or you will become bitter with God if you don't hold on to God's sovereignty. Now, I've said enough about how David, very calm and composed, he was able to handle what came against him. I'll not take much time. Let me also quickly draw your attention to 2 Samuel chapter 19. After 3 chapters, 2 Samuel chapter 19. Can somebody help me with reading verses 15 to 23? 2 Samuel chapter 19, verses 15 to 23.
So the king returned and came to Jordan, and Judah came to Gilgal to go to meet the king, to conduct the king over Jordan. And Shimei the son of Gera, a Benjamite which was of Behorim, hasted and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. And there were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and his 20 servants with him, and they went over Jordan before the king. And there went over a ferry boat to carry over the king's household, and to do what he thought good. And Shimei the son of Gera fell down before the king, and he was come over Jordan. And said unto the king, Let not my lord impute iniquity unto me, neither do thou remember that which thy servant did perversely. The day that my lord the king went down to Jerusalem, that the king should take it into his heart. For thy servant doth know that I have sinned, therefore behold, I have come the first this day of all the house of Joseph to go down to meet my lord the king. But Abishai the son of Zeruiah answered and said, Shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed? And David said, What have I to do with you, ye son of Zeruiah, that ye should this day be adversaries unto me? Shall there any man be put to death this day in Israel? For do not I know that I am this day king over Israel? Therefore the king said unto Shimei, Thou shalt not die. And the king sware unto him.
Right, thank you. Very self-explanatory, right? Times change, fortunes also what? Change. Perhaps Shimei thought David is never going to what? Come back to Jerusalem. Gone. Shimei didn't really understand what God was doing with David's life. The Lord helped David to survive the coup. And then later, now we see David is now coming back. Absalom and his army is defeated. And David is coming back to Jerusalem. The first one to meet him is what? Who is he? Shimei. He goes down and then asks for pardon. What is he saying? How did he call David before? Bloodthirsty scoundrel. Now what is he calling him? My Lord and my King. What do you think of Shimei here? Was he truly repentant? Pakka fraud. Was he truly repentant? I do not think so. I'll come to that a little later. He was afraid for his life. So therefore, he took that opportunity to fall before him and say, I have sinned. I have sinned. And then he goes on to say, please don't remember what I did to you when you were on the way. ഇത് പറയാൻ ഇച്ചിരി ധൈര്യം വേണം. ഷിമേക്ക് നല്ല തോൽക്കെട്ടിയുള്ള പാർട്ടിയാണ്. എപ്പോ വേണമെങ്കിലും he is somebody who knows, is a guy who is an opportunist. He knows how to manage things. So he comes to David and he says, pardon me, please pardon me. You know what? Abishai, again, what does he say? Adiyam ni vittu. You said, don't do anything. Now is the time. Let's finish him off. Again, did you realize that even in the first instance and here also, David is asking the same question. What is the question? What is between you and me, sons of Zeruiah? How do you understand this question? It's like David saying, you have been with me for so long, have you not understood that your character and my character is what? Different. I don't behave the way you behave. You are still with your carnal nature. I am different. How do you forgive someone knowing very well he is actually playing with you? Sometimes I don't know whether you have come across situations where somebody is trying to fool you around. They're not truly repentant. They just trying to save themselves. Now, how do you really forgive them? Lip sake, they come and ask you what? Sorry. Please forgive. But for sure, there's no true repentance. How do you forgive them? Now, I have come across contexts where even in church context, you realize there are people who say, no, അവൻ മാറിയിട്ടേ ഇല്ല. അവന്റെ സ്വഭാവത്തിന് ഒരു മാറ്റവുമില്ല. He is just what? Trying to get back to the church. Right? You know what? I just want to conclude by showing you, for David, it didn't really matter. For David, it didn't really matter. Here is somebody who has come before me and asked my apology. When somebody is asking apology, it is my responsibility to what? Forgive him. If I start really trying to find out whether he is truly repentant or not, will he really change his ways or not, I will never be able to what? Forgive that person. He has come, asked me forgiveness. Now the ball is in whose court? My court. Will I forgive him or not? Do you also know why David was able to do this? Let me say this. He had a soft heart. That's one thing. You know what? Another thing is, who was David here? He is also a person who has been forgiven by the Lord. A few chapters before this, David also stood like whom? Shimei. Before not a man, before whom? God. But what David had done also was something so serious. He committed adultery and also killed a man, innocent man. And the Lord was about to judge him. And in fact, you know what the Lord said to him? He said, "You shall not die. You're going to live." I tell you, brothers and sisters, many a time now, the reason why we find it difficult to forgive other people is we have not really experienced forgiveness ourselves. Now for David, here is a guy falling before me, he's asking forgiveness. I don't have to really see whether he is truly repentant or not. I also stood before God and God forgave me. How could I not give forgiveness to this man? Brothers and sisters, think about your own self. Whenever you find it difficult to forgive another person, think about how many times the Lord would have forgiven you and me. How many times? Did God really say, let me first try to understand whether you will be truly repentant, whether you will not do the same sin again. Let me first get some kind of assurance, then I will forgive you? No. I tell you, every time when we sin and stand before God and truly ask for forgiveness, I have done it many times. Sometimes I have told God, Lord, next time I do the same sin, you take my life. I wonder. If the Lord was to answer that prayer, I would have died long ago. Maybe I was sincere in saying that, but I didn't really know what is going to come in the future. But every time I stand before God, God is forgiving me. Every sin I confess to Him, He is what? He is forgiving me. He's not asking me whether you are truly repentant, whether you will not do the sin again. He's not actually bargaining with us. You know what is a bargain? Sometimes like we do. ഇനി ഒരു പ്രാവശ്യം ഇത് ചെയ്താൽ എന്ത് ചെയ്യും പുറത്താക്കാം. Sometimes even in family counseling we have come across situations where one of the partners will say, okay, now because you guys are all saying, I will start living with him. One more time, if he behaves like that, I'm out. So what is that? Is that true forgiveness? No. Brothers and sisters, David, a forgiven man who had experienced so much of forgiveness from the Lord, for him, he has no other option to forgive Shimei. I also want to say, as I said, was he truly repentant? No. How do we know that? Later, when Solomon becomes the king, okay, David is about to die. One of the last few things that David said to Solomon is, have an eye on whom? Shimei. And you do the right thing. You are a wise man. You know what to do with him. That means, even after David had forgiven Shimei, Shimei did not correct his ways. But did you see the long rope? Hello? Did you see the long rope? He gave a long rope. No, he was willing to forgive others, let go. I'm reminded of a trial which I've seen, a court trial. There is an international court, you know that? I think it is in Prague. Prague? Okay. There's an international court, and for all this Nazi regime, for all the atrocities they committed, there is still a trial going on. The Nazi survivors, people who survived Hitler, they would come and stand and they will testify against what? Some of the surviving Nazi soldiers. And it so happened there was this 83-year-old lady. Her name is Eva Kor. She and many others were called to testify against a man who was a Nazi soldier long ago, and he was 95. Can you imagine? They're all old people, and here is this guy, 95-year-old guy, standing, and these people come and testify. And what Nazi guys like him did to many of these families are gruesome. You can't even even narrate some of the gruesome things such people did against these families. In fact, so many people, when they testified, they looked at this man and said, "Nee puruthu jaagunnakke parayile." Hello? Kekkarundallo? Nee injinjaayittu jaagu. That means no, you should not die a natural, easy death. Given the maximum kind of pain, they were actually venting out all that they pain. The way their parents were killed, their siblings were killed, how they were physically tortured, sexually abused, and all that. Now they were taking out everything upon this man, 95-year-old man. And then came Eva Ko's turn to testify against him. She went, she narrated her story. First day, she was carried into the concentration camp. Her parents were taken aside. Her brother was taken aside, never to be seen again. They were killed the same day, which she came to know much later. She and her sibling, they were twins. Okay, there was this crazy doctor in the Nazi regime who wanted to experiment with twins. He would poison both the twins and see which twin is dying first and which survives. He would do all kinds of nasty experiments with twins. So they were not put to the gas chamber. So they were picked up, and then the experiment started. She started narrating about all the torture that she went through. Eventually, her other twin died, and she survived. She went on to become an amazing lady. Now she is 83, and she stands there, narrates all that story. And you know what? Then she climbs down. Here is the man sitting on the wheelchair, goes there, gives him a hug. Gives him a hug. And then he says, in spite of all that you or your people have done to me and my family, I choose to forgive you. I choose to forgive you. That was on the front page of newspapers. You can still Google it, and then you'll find it was on the front page of the newspapers, where this 83-year-old lady was hugging that 95-year-old man whom the rest of the people said he should die in hell. So many were so actually taken aback. And some of the other survivors, Nazi survivors, they were so upset with Eva Ko. No, how do you do this? They said, no, what you have done is wrong. To that, Eva Ko said, that's a beautiful statement, why survive at all? If you want to be sad, angry, and hurting, that is so foreign to who I am. I don't understand why the world is so much more willing to accept lashing out in anger rather than embracing friendship and humanity. And then she concluded, forgiveness is the best revenge of all. Forgiveness is the best revenge of all. Brothers and sisters, I want to ask you this afternoon. Is there anybody in your life you're yet finding it difficult to forgive? Maybe somebody from your childhood, maybe somebody from your college days, or someone right here, or someone in your workplace, whom you're finding it difficult to forgive. They've hurt you so deeply. If that is so, you need to go down on the knee and pray to God. Ask grace from Him. Because you know what? If you are not willing to forgive, it's going to affect your mind, and your physical body than anyone else. I have come across some people, I tell you, depressed, so depressed. And then you talk to them and you find much of their depression and ill health is because they are yet not willing to what? Forgive. Forgiveness brings a lot of healing to both your mind and also to your body. Think about what Jesus said on the cross. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. May the Lord give us the grace to live our lives with endurance and also willing to forgive others, those who hurt us. Thank you again for inviting me to be part of today's worship. May the Lord continue to use this assembly for His glory in the days to come.